and you're sitting on Billionaires Row sipping coffee from a $6,000 coffee machine. You can appreciate how appalling that is to Canadians. So again, sir, I ask for honesty. When did you bring up the need for a new residence?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
All right, gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have our favorites on this channel. Larry Brock is obviously one of them. Who isn't engaged by Larry Brock? Once he starts talking, demanding his answers, and articulating his questions so well, how can you not enjoy Larry? He seems to be fighting for Canadians like you and I. Let's take a peek at another Larry Brock going off in committee. He doesn't go off, but he sets it straight. There's no one quite like Larry Brock.
But not Canadians who are in distress.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now go to Mr. Brock. We'll start our 5-minute rounds. Go ahead, Mr. Brock, please.
Mr. Clark, although you have not been sworn or affirmed to tell the truth, every witness that testifies at parliamentary committee is expected to tell the truth. Have you, sir, told the truth to the committee so far?
I have, every word of it.
I have a package of emails from the government, emails from the Chief of Staff to the Assistant Deputy Minister of Trudeau's Minister of Global Affairs, Melanie Jolie. She wrote a summary of the $9 million condo purchase. The email states, and I quote, "Both the Consul General of New York and the head of mission," that's you, Tom Clark, "have been instrumental throughout the process with the head of mission," again, you, Mr. Clark, "providing the green light for the selection of the new residence. It is in writing by the department. Tom Clark, you, sir, was instrumental in the condo purchase on Billionaires Row. So again, Mr. Clark, when did you raise the need for a new residence with the Liberal government?"
Mr. Chair, I will repeat, I had no role whatsoever in deciding to sell the old residence, buying the new residence, or its amenities, or its location. That email that you're referring to has a couple of addendums to it that I think are important. Number one, it was corrected. That was a person who was not involved in the process of this. I only became aware of this email less than 48 hours ago. I, too, was taken aback by what was in it because it was simply wrong. It wasn't true.
Mr. Clark, let me stop you right there. I don't believe you. Canadians don't believe you. Are you trying to suggest that a head of mission in any country in the world would be completely shut out, would be completely uninvolved with the acquisition of your own residence? No Canadian believes you, sir. This was not a typo. This was a deliberate, focused sentence regarding your involvement. And the timing, sir, is crucial. The email I referenced was sent out June 17th, 2024. The story of the $9 million condo on Billionaires Row became known to the Canadian public on July the 11th. That was a huge embarrassment to the Canadian government, and I'm sure a huge embarrassment to you, Mr. Clark. Your involvement was documented well before. We have the receipts. The department's pathetic attempt to cover up for you was issued on July 25, after all of the controversy, after all of the pushback from politicians, from Canadians who are struggling to put a roof over their head, who are lined up at food banks, who are starving. People who go to the food banks were actually, donating to the food banks. And you're sitting on Billionaires Row, sipping coffee from a $6,000 coffee machine. You can appreciate how appalling that is to Canadians. So again, sir, I ask for honesty. When did you bring up the need for a new residence?
Mr. Chair, I will repeat once again, and please, if you wish, you can put me under oath on this. I had nothing to do with the decision to sell the old OR. I had nothing to do with the decision to buy the new OR. I had nothing to do with deciding on amenities or its location.
It's funny, Mr. Clark, 19 previous consul generals to New York since 1961 have all enjoyed the lavish amenities, the wonderful location in Midtown Manhattan of the Park Avenue residence until you, sir, were appointed to the position. And within months, sir, of you appointing the position, and within months of Justin Trudeau visiting you and you hanging out in a motorcade in downtown New York with streets closed, all of a sudden, there's a talk about a new residence and a push to get you into Billionaires Row. You said at the outset, you'd rather be in Central Park. Now you're overlooking Central Park. You got your wish, sir.
Mr. Brock, I am not overlooking Central Park.
Okay.
I am
I'm
not
sorry,
in
Mr.
a
Clark.
tower.
I have to interrupt. That is our time, but I think you'll probably have a chance to respond for our next intervention, Mr. Baines. I'm going to assume you.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah. He's and the team.
How did you communicate, sir? It's a simple question.
Our team actually has been communicated with the minister's office.
How did you communicate? Snail mail, email, telephone call? What did you do?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. So we've got a pretty great video here to show. We've got 3 rounds with Larry Brock. He's asking questions about this $9 million luxury condo that the Trudeau's Liberal government purchased. $19,000 stove, $6,000 dishwasher. How much is your dishwasher worth? Anyways, 3 rounds with Larry Brock coming up right here. I don't know where they get these civil servants. They never seem to be prepared for Larry Brock. Let's go, Larry. Let's take a look.
Mr. Brock, please, for 5 minutes.
The acquisition of this extravagant condo on Billionaires Row has garnered a lot of attention across this country, as well as with media. I'm curious as to the consultations that the 4 of you have had prior to today's appearance with Minister Joly.
Mr. Chair, we have followed the governance and process according to our
It's
delegation.
not the question, sir. It's not the question. I have limited time. I'm interested in your discussions with Minister Joly in relation to your appearance. Did it happen?
Mr. Chair, no, there was no interaction with Mr.
Did you
Joly.
receive any emails from Minister Joly with respect to your appearance?
Mr. Chair, no, we haven't received any emails.
Has she weighed in on the controversy surrounding the acquisition of this property?
Mr. Chair, the minister was not involved in this
Thank you.
process.
Was she briefed by you?
Mr. Chair, we actually have brief, as per normal process, the minister's
Was she
office.
briefed on the acquisition of this property?
Mr. Chair, she was informed, the Chief of Staff was informed in June 2024.
I'm going to push back on some of the narrative that has been circulated among Canadians. You're quoted, your department is quoted as follows: considering the high renovation costs for the current residents and value of the property, GAC has recommended a relocation to a new, smaller, more suitable and more economical apartment. In addition to representing a savings opportunity of more than $2 million, it will also reduce ongoing maintenance costs, property taxes, support future program needs, and meet representational requirements. Now, at first blush, this may give the impression to Canadians that you're actually downsizing. And when Canadians think of the term downsizing, they think of perhaps raising a family, having an empty nest, and moving from a 4 to 5 bedroom home to a small 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom condo. But that's the furthest from the truth in relation to the acquisition of this property on Billionaires Row. In fact, the old property on Park Avenue was roughly 3,800 square feet, and you downsized, wait for it, to a whopping 3,600 square feet. The actual rooms have actually increased. The old property had 12 rooms. The new property has 14 rooms. So you're not giving the Canadians the full truth here. You're not being honest with them in terms of the actual blueprint. Now, I also want to talk about the operating costs. You keep talking about these savings. We're saving Canadians upwards to $115,000 per year. I've got the listings from both of these properties from a website called Street Easy. The old monthly maintenance cost, this is the common fees, this would be the taxes, is $13,147 US per month. The new property is not a savings at all. Taxes and common charges are actually $15,213. So $2,000 US per month more for this new property that's supposed to be saving Canadians value. You're misrepresenting the facts. You're not telling the truth to Canadians. So I want you to be aware of this, and I want you to comment on it, because you talk in broad strokes about these savings. When you dig down into this, there's no savings at all. Now let's talk about the utility costs. What currently are the utility costs on Park Avenue versus utility costs on 57th Street? Is there a savings?
Mr. Chair, welcome the question to clarify the costs. I will turn to my colleague,
I didn't need that, sir. That's a waste of time. If anyone knows the answer, please, Mr. Dubois, answer the question.
I don't have the cost of the utilities at the new place. We have not occupied it yet. But I have the total amount that is forecasted to spend on the ongoing basis per month.
Okay, and is that a savings over Park Avenue, or is it the same, or is it more?
It's a saving.
Savings.
Yes,
You'll table that for us?
we could.
You'll table the monthly utility costs for Park Avenue and the monthly utility costs for West 57th. Okay? Now, what else about the
Sorry, Mr. Brock, that is our time.
Thank you.
Round number 2.
I want to circle back on Minister Melanie Joly's involvement in this latest Justin Trudeau scandal. We heard through you, Mr. Cousineau, that you notified her chief of staff sometime in June. You're going to give us the exact date. What I didn't hear is the actual date of the closing of the new unit. Presumably, real estate closes at the end of the month. Is it safe to say this occurred at the end of June of 2024?
Mr. Chair, if you bear with me, I'm just want to make sure that I have the information right in front of my eyes. The transaction approval, the payment and the transaction was towards the end of June 2024. Yeah.
But Melanie Joly's office was notified much earlier than the actual sale, correct?
Mr. Chair, as part of our process and communication, yes, we had communicated at the end.
And to your knowledge, you only communicated with the chief of staff. I'd like you to table the correspondence that you sent to the chief of staff. Will you do that, sir?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if there's correspondence.
Well, you pick up the phone and say, hey, by the way, we just purchased a $9 million condo on Billionaires Row. Is that what you did?
Mr. Chair,
Surely
again,
there must be something that's official.
Mr. Chair, I want to reiterate, we follow our delegation authority, supported by expertise and a team.
How did you communicate, sir? It's a simple question.
Our team actually has been communicated with the Minister's office.
How did you communicate? Snail mail, email, telephone call? What did you do?
Mr. Chair, I could confirm and verify how the communication was done with their
Fine. It's absolutely ridiculous that you can't tell me how you communicate with your own ministry. That's absolutely ludicrous. Now, I think Canadians want to know why there's been such a deafening silence from the minister herself, knowing that we've got a housing crisis, an affordability crisis, 9 years of Justin Trudeau's spendthrift and irresponsible government, and crickets from the minister with respect to a $9 million condo for Justin Trudeau's buddy, who once asked him, "What kind of shampoo do you use?" As ridiculous as it, look, why hasn't she communicated to the public about this particular purchase?
Mr. Chair, we follow delegation authority, and I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of the minister. I think that question should be more appropriate for Minister herself. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the property itself. It's listed. An elegant entry foyer with white Makuba stone floors, stunning powder room finished in jewel onyx, custom smoke gray floors, an Italian white Venato marble in one of the bathrooms, a freestanding copper soaking tub handcrafted by William Holland, custom bronze fixtures by Mr. Gurin. We talk about a kitchen equipped with a wet bar, Cristallo gold quartz-right countertops, custom handcrafted cabinetry, a full suite of Gaggenau appliances. Gaggenau, the most expensive appliance maker in the world, a refrigerator, an oven, a Gaggenau oven costs $19,000. So I guess shopping at our local Leon's or the Brick wasn't an option for the Canadian taxpayers. But, you know, I'm wondering why you had to have all of these features. I'm referencing your statement. When you talk about the old unit, last refurbished in '82, the apartment does not meet new building codes nor standards. So what I just described to you as luxurious pieces, are these GAC standards, or more frankly, are they Tom Clark's standards? Can you answer that question, sir?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just reiterate Mr. Clark didn't have any influence in the selection and approval of this new condo. The feature that we just described are not part of our what I would call space requirements. And that, we don't look at that kind of feature. We look at the value of the property, and we felt that the value proposition and the value for money was there for Canadians.
Well, the oven is $19,000. The refrigerator is $13,000. The coffee maker is $4,600. The freezer is $11,000. The dishwasher is $6,000. How on earth is that value for the Canadian taxpayer?
Mr. Chair, once
Just
again,
a very brief answer, please.
Once again, Mr. Chair, that's not part of the space requirements that we do when we do the actual evaluation of a new property, and I'll leave it at that.
Right. Thanks. We're
Round number 3.
finish up with Mr. Brock and then Mr. Kuzmierczuk.
Thank you. I have a number of odds and end questions, some loose ends based on what we've discussed over the last almost 3 hours. I want to clarify, very early on in the first hour, my colleague Mr. Barrett had asked for details and tabling of any and all correspondence in relation to the sale and the acquisition of both condos. I want to specifically ask for any, and I appreciate you said it a number of times, that Mr. Clark did not influence the decision to sell and the decision to purchase. But we still want any and all correspondence between Tom Clark and Global Affairs in relation to both properties. Will you table that, sir?
As mentioned, I will be pleased to look into it and see what's available and get back to this table.
Okay. Now, in relation to the 57th Street property, it was on the market for 235 days, just shy of 8 months. It sold for $6.63 million. Did you pay full listing price, or did you negotiate the price down to 6.63 US?
Mr. Chair, always looking for value for money. Once again, I will turn to Robin to talk about the process of the negotiation on this one, which has been done, as I mentioned, with the real
I just want the question answered. I don't need an explanation.
Yeah.
Did you pay full listing, or did you negotiate?
There was a negotiation that took place, and we paid less than the listed price.
How much less?
I think it's in the document that was shared with you, and it's $6.5 million US.
Right, but how much from the listing price to the selling price? What was the difference?
It was listed at, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was 6.89 million.
6.89, and you
Yes.
bought for 6.63.
6.5. 6.5 million we paid.
Okay, so
US.
roughly what, $400,000?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the renovation costs on Park Avenue, how many bids did you receive from Global Affairs?
The renovation was assessed by our quantity surveyors, that are the professionals that basically assess the work that needs to be done based on plans done by architects. And we never went to market for those renovations because we work with those numbers.
Why wouldn't you go to market to get the best value?
Is when we got the information that it was up now to 2.6 million, we wanted to change the approach and
Well,
look
that's
at
based
all of
on
the
your
options.
internal numbers, though. Why would you not go market to see whether or not it would be a more feasible option by trying to find the best renovation cost possible? Again, to save the taxpayer further money. Why wasn't that an option?
Well, the quantity surveyor are very good at assessing the cost of a project. So when we saw that the costs were escalating,
Is that what you do for all your official residences in terms of renovation costs?
we do
You don't look for best value?
we look for best value. We use quantity surveyors first to get an appreciation of how much money it's going
Okay,
to cost.
let's move on. You talked about that it was not, the old property was not accessible. Can you explain, and I think you did, that one of the washrooms had to be accessible? I truly understand that. Those are Canadian codes. But what was done specifically with the new property to make that accessible?
Well, I understand that the floor plan was looked at, and then it was determined that the options exist there for an accessible bathroom to be.
Okay, and that's being installed as we speak, because Mr. Clark is not in that residence right now, correct?
No, he's not there, and I don't think we need to renovate. I think that the bathroom is readily available and accessible as it is.
Okay, so you don't need to put any additional devices on the walls to make it even more accessible? It's just the ability to use a wheelchair to get into the washroom? Is that what you mean by accessible?
That's, yes,
The width of the door was more accessible at the new location versus the old location?
yes,
And
there
you
is-
couldn't renovate the existing entranceway to a washroom? There was like 7 washrooms in the old location. You couldn't just tear out the door and make it accessible? Was that discussed?
Sorry, we're talking about the
Old property, Park
Chancery.
Avenue.
Well, that was part of the renovation projects that we looked at. It was to make it accessible.
Okay, you also mentioned that,
Real brief,
and I had
Mr.
asked you
Brock.
questions about property taxes, monthly property taxes, and I explained to you that you are lying to Canadians when you say the new property has less carrying costs than the old, and I pointed that out to you. But then I also heard, in reference to a Liberal colleague asking you questions, that you are tax exempt pursuant to the Vienna Convention. Can you explain that, please?
We're out of time, but can you provide a very brief answer?
Absolutely, and very quickly, the new property is definitely cheaper because of that. We will be tax exempt on the new condo because of that Vienna Convention, absolutely.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. So that's where we're going to wrap it up, guys. Larry Brock, 3 rounds. These civil servants, I don't know where they get them. And who has the money for a $9 million condo in Billionaire Row in New York? All these things that Larry Brock just talked about. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. Like, subscribe, share, get notified, all those fun things. Please leave a comment. We love the comments. That's it. Till the next video. Thank you very much for watching this one. We'll be back with a lot more Larry Brock and committee investigations. See you next time. Thanks for watching.